Internet news with no filter. Welcome to News Sesh. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're diving into a really important topic. It seems like every day, someone is turning their life into content. And sometimes, the most intimate parts of life, the moments that should be private, sacred, or simply personal, become clicks, views, and ad revenue. Take the latest episode of the Unplanned Podcast as a case study. In it, a deeply personal story is shared, a story of loss and grief. And while the story is real and impactful, the episode also contains multiple ad breaks. This raises an uncomfortable question. When does sharing become monetizing? And when does content creation blur the line between vulnerability and profit? Today, we're going to unpack the ethical implications of monetized personal storytelling, explore why platforms reward this kind of content, and ask what it really means for creators, audiences, and the broader culture. Social media and podcasting have transformed how we experience personal stories. In the past, grief was private. Loss was shared in small circles of family and friends. But today, authenticity sells. Raw emotion becomes entertainment. Vulnerability becomes clicks. Podcasts like the Unplanned Podcast, TikTok creators, YouTube influencers, they thrive by sharing intimate moments. Their audiences expect honesty, immediacy, and emotional depth. The more personal the story, the stronger the engagement. It's not that sharing personal experiences is inherently wrong. In fact, it can be cathartic, help others feel less alone, and spark real conversation. But as soon as the story intersects with monetization, ad breaks, sponsorships, or affiliate links, the dynamic shifts. The audience isn't just witnessing, they are engaging in a transaction. Their empathy, attention, and loyalty are now commodities. This is not unique to any one creator. It's a structural phenomenon, baked into the platforms that reward storytelling. Views translate into dollars. Engagement metrics translate into brand deals. And deeply emotional content, because it's highly engaging, is disproportionately rewarded. Let's look at the episode in question. In it, a deeply personal story of loss is shared in detail. The narrative is emotionally charged, precise, and vulnerable. It is the kind of content that draws listeners in, makes them feel connected, and inspires empathy. But here's the twist. The episode includes multiple midroll ads. Listeners are asked to consider products, services, or brands, interrupting the story at points when engagement is highest. This is where the ethical questions emerge. When the most vulnerable moments are bracketed by advertisements, it creates a tension. The audience is simultaneously invited into intimacy and reminded of a transactional relationship. This isn't speculation about intent. It's an observation about structural incentives. Platforms reward high-engagement episodes, ads generate revenue, and creators are naturally incentivized to produce content that performs emotionally. The more raw, personal, or tragic the story, the higher the engagement. The pattern is clear across digital media. Extreme vulnerability, paired with monetization, is one of the most lucrative strategies available to creators. So, where do we draw the line? Some argue creators deserve to earn a living. Sharing personal experiences is labor, intellectual, emotional, and sometimes physical. There is nothing inherently wrong with monetizing that labor. Others argue monetization creates a conflict of interest. When revenue depends on engagement, creators are incentivized to make their pain performative, whether consciously or unconsciously. The ethical question is subtle. Does monetization distort authenticity? When loss, grief, or trauma becomes part of a revenue-generating model, audiences may feel manipulated, even if no malicious intent exists. It can create pressure for creators to keep sharing, keep exposing, and keep packaging their lives for consumption, sometimes at the expense of their own healing. This tension is amplified when content is highly visible, emotional, and intimately personal. The audience is drawn in by empathy. But engagement metrics, not emotional care, determine visibility. The system rewards raw exposure, sometimes more than it rewards ethical restraint. Let's step back. Why do these dynamics exist? The answer is simple. Digital platforms are engineered to maximize attention. Attention equals revenue. And the system doesn't care whether the attention comes from joy, excitement, or grief. It only tracks engagement metrics. Creators, meanwhile, are human. They naturally respond to feedback, audience growth, and financial opportunities. Emotional content, tragedy, triumph, or controversy, tends to perform. It is rewarded algorithmically, financially, and socially. This creates a structural pressure. To remain visible, creators must produce highly engaging content. The content that drives engagement often happens to be personal, raw, or emotionally charged. It's a feedback loop. Platforms reward raw emotion. Creators respond with raw emotion. Audiences engage. Revenue increases. Cycle continues. It's not about blame. It's about recognizing that these incentives exist and understanding how they shape what we consume and what we see online. It's not just about creators or platforms. Audiences are complicit, often unknowingly. We click on these episodes, watch every minute, leave comments, share the content. Our engagement directly influences visibility and revenue. Every play, every reaction, every share is a signal to the algorithm. Promote this content further. This dynamic creates moral tension. We consume the content because it resonates, yet by consuming, we reinforce the cycle that monetizes vulnerability. It's easy to judge creators, but we are part of the system. Our attention is the fuel that drives content monetization, and sometimes it comes at the expense of the line between private grief and public entertainment. Why is grief so compelling to watch, read, or listen to? Grief is universally human. It is raw, uncontrollable, and deeply relatable. Watching someone navigate pain creates empathy, curiosity, and a sense of shared experience. When packaged as content, grief becomes consumable. We follow along, we react, we comment. Emotionally, we invest. And that investment translates into measurable metrics for creators. Watch time, shares, likes, and ultimately revenue. But here lies the paradox. What is intimate and sacred in life becomes transactional in media. The very qualities that make grief profound, authenticity, vulnerability, unfiltered emotion, are the same qualities that make it marketable. It's a tension between human empathy and platform economics. And it's one of the defining ethical questions of content creation today. Returning to the Unplanned Podcast episode as a case study, multiple ads appear throughout a story that is deeply personal. This episode demonstrates a clear example of the structural pressures we've been discussing. Notably, emotional engagement is high. Ad placement is optimized for audience retention. Monetization exists in parallel with storytelling. This is not a judgment of the creator's intentions. The episode is real, heartfelt, and sincere. But it illustrates how platform incentives shape content, even content rooted in human grief. It shows the delicate line between sharing and monetizing, between authenticity and algorithmic reward. What does this mean for culture at large? We are normalizing public vulnerability as entertainment. Grief, trauma, and personal milestones become content commodities. Platforms reward extremes, more raw, more intimate, more extreme engagement. For future creators, the message is clear. Authenticity and vulnerability are marketable. But monetization introduces ethical tension. For audiences, the message is also clear. Empathy is a powerful currency online. Our clicks, streams, and shares have consequences. We are participants whether we realize it or not. This dynamic reshapes our understanding of privacy, intimacy, and the ethics of storytelling in the digital age. So, where do we go from here? Creators deserve to earn a living. Sharing personal stories can help others, build connection, and inspire change. But monetization creates tension. It rewards the performance of vulnerability, sometimes above all else. Audiences must remain critical. Platforms must be conscious of the incentives they create. And creators must navigate the delicate line between authenticity and monetization. Episodes like the latest Unplanned Podcast serve as a mirror. They show us what digital content has become, a space where emotion is currency, grief can be monetized, and engagement often trumps ethics. The lesson is not about blaming creators. It's about understanding the system, questioning our own role as consumers, and considering what it means to witness, empathize, and engage responsibly in a world where vulnerability is both human and profitable. And that's a wrap, guys. Like if you did, subscribe for more fun. See ya!